Morning, everyone. I know we still have a few folks that are trying to get on the call, and we'll get rolling here in just a minute. Hope you guys are all doing okay and safe with all these crazy fires and everything that's been going on. Some of you may have received this. We received a Nixle update just a few minutes ago that the evacuation warning, I guess you'd call it, has been lifted in Fairfield with the exception of Rancho Solano. So that's good news, right? We're heading in the right direction. So anyway, listen, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for joining the call today. And gosh, if you're here to learn more about the Fairfield Small Business Grant Program, you are in the right place, on the right call, because that's what we're going to focus on here over the next hour. And if that's not why you tuned in, and you just need some social connection today, feel free to stay on the call. Okay, it's not a problem. So our goal today is to really give you the information about this grant program and answer any questions that you have as you proceed forward to apply for this, if it's a fit for you. I'll just give a quick couple of introductions and we'll get going. My name is Tim Merle, and I'm the director of the Solano Small Business Development Center, SBDC for short. And our group focuses on supporting small businesses throughout Solano County. And we do that in a lot of different ways. We provide a lot of training events. Right now, they're all virtual events. We also do a lot of one-on-one advising with our clients to help them through whatever challenges that they're facing, whether it's funding or marketing or HR stuff, strategy, whatever. And so we have an opportunity to work with, I think, many of you on this call. I'm seeing some familiar names, and it's an honor to do that. And because we work with so many small businesses, I just want to say how happy I was to hear that the city of Fairfield has stepped up with this $400,000 grant. It's awesome. I commend the city for stepping up to do this to help those of you who need some additional assistance right now. And so I also want to introduce, we have Jorge Barrera on the line. Jorge heads up the economic development activities for the city of Fairfield, and gonna ask Jorge to kind of give an overview of the grant here in just a couple of minutes. I believe we also have Whitney Skillman on the call. I can't see everyone, but I assume you're there. Hi, Whitney, if you're there. Whitney is the communications supervisor for the city of Fairfield and has helped really get the word out about this program, as has Brianna Boyd. And Brianna is our marketing specialist for the Solano SBDC, also has done a great job of getting the word out. And Brianna will also be kind of your resource and contact if you have questions after this call. We'll provide her contact information before the call is over. And Brianna and Whitney and Jorge, all of us will join in to answer your questions that you have. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jorge. And Jorge, can you just kind of walk us through kind of a summary of the grant program?
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, perfect. All right, sounds good. So yeah, thank you so much to everyone on this call and for registering and participating. We're really excited to be rolling out this program. The Fairfield City Council, as Tim mentioned, approved $400,000 for a grant program in response to the COVID pandemic. We're moving really, really fast on this. Council approved it on August 4th, and by August 5th, we hit the ground running, and we're really just trying to get checks into people's hands by the middle of September. And if any of you, and I'm sure all of you are aware, government doesn't necessarily move that fast, but we are, and that's something that we're really, really proud of and conscious of, especially in our partnership with SBDC. So with that being said, the program was really designed for small businesses, meaning 20 equivalent full-time employees or less. And as we continue, we'll definitely go over those eligibility requirements, which then SBDC will take it away and kind of look at the application process. But focusing on those small businesses, that makes up, about 70% of the businesses in our city. We easily have probably about 4,500 small businesses with 20 employees or less. And with that being said, I believe there's maybe about 340 or a little more that have applied, which is less than 10%. So far it's, there's a great odds because the way the grant program is working is that it's going to be a lottery. And as you go through the process and through the application process, if you meet those requirements to apply, it will then you'll be randomly selected. And the way that is working is that we have $400,000. And the grant amounts range from $5,000 to $10,000, and that's going to be based on the number of employees that you have. And then we'll get into that a little later, as I said. So the grants go from $5,000, $7,500, and $10,000, which means that we're looking at an estimate of 40 to 80 grants being awarded as a part of this funding. And the way that works is, let's say, for example, on that randomized list of approved applications, and we go through the lottery, let's say the first 40 are all for $10,000, which is highly unlikely. But let's say they are. Well, then that means there'll be 40 grants that'll be issued. The majority of the grants, from what I understand right now, are the $5,000 range. So let's say they're all $5,000 and we just work our way through the list. Well, then there's going to be 80 grants that are available. So that's where we get that count from about 40 to 80 grants that may be issued. And so, like I said, the odds are really great. If 340, 400 applicants, if that's what remains, well, then there's a great likelihood that you may get awarded a grant. And then based on that, if you're selected, we move on to the next phase, which is issuing a grant award agreement. And Tim will talk about that a little further as far as the documentation that'll be required to see if you move on to that step after those that are selected in the lottery. But what I'm going to go ahead, is that me? I hear some background noise.
Oh.
Can we have someone mute their phone if they're...
Can you check to make sure you're all muted? There we go. That's all.
Yeah, perfect. So what I'm going to go ahead and do right now, if that's okay, is go through the eligibility requirements. So I think, am I able to share my screen there, Brianna? Is that what I need to do?
You should be able to.
Okay.
Brianna, you're muted right now.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay.
Jorge, I believe so. Do you have an option to share screen on your end?
Yeah, let me see. I believe I do. Okay.
Very bottom middle of the page. Usually it's green.
Yep.
Here we go.
Can you guys see that? Okay,
Yes.
Perfect. So a few things before. Oops, that's actually not the one I want. That's the proposed timeline, which we'll see in a minute. So before we go into the eligibility requirements, a few things, and I just want to emphasize the deadline to apply, if you have not applied yet, is August 28th. So that's a very important and critical deadline that is essential for you to know, which is the deadline to apply for this grant, which is the 28th. When I touch on the timeline, it'll kind of also lay out some other important dates. But as of right now, we're currently accepting applications, and the cutoff date on that is August 28th. The other thing I'd like to share before we move forward is that all the information and the links to be able to apply are available on the city's website, and that address is fairfield.ca.gov/cares. So that's both fairfield.ca.gov/cares, and there's a significant amount of information, including what we're going to discuss today, that you'll be able to find on that website. So jumping into the eligibility requirements for this grant, as you'll see, there's a few categories that really make up the requirements. We have the business size, the business type, the location, age, revenue, ownership, and other requirements. And then we talk about the funding limits and the eligible expenditures. So those are the categories, and those, I believe those are the questions on the application that are asked of you, and that's what we use to be able to determine if you're eligible or ineligible, and whether or not your application will be a part of the lottery. So when we look at the eligibility requirements, and as I stated, we're really looking for those businesses that have 20 full-time equivalent positions or fewer. And that can be, made up in any way, any combination of part-time employees, and kind of working with how you come up with that number of full-time employees. And based on the number of employees is going to determine the funding limits for the grant that you applied. This grant is only for-profit businesses. So unfortunately, if you're a nonprofit, which we've had some inquire about their eligibility, and unfortunately, that is not a eligible type of business. And the reason for that is because at the onset of the pandemic, there was a different funding source, the Community Development Block Grant, and I believe that was over $500,000, and we went through a similar process as far as an application period that went through a committee, and that was specifically for nonprofits. So we felt it was important to dedicate a funding source specifically for profit businesses, and that's why a decision was made to just have those businesses be eligible. Now, the location of the business requires that you have a physical storefront or office location within the boundaries of the city of Fairfield. So we've had some questions in the past about let's say, one of the things is that if you're a home-based business, and unfortunately, home-based businesses are not eligible. And so that determination will be made by the business license. So when we do a search to confirm that you have an active business license, that will indicate whether you're a home-based business or not. And so unfortunately, home-based businesses do not qualify. And we've found that that primarily applies to mobile businesses that are traveling, and also, such as caterers, or massage therapists, and so unfortunately those, and that's just from some of the questions. I'm sure there's more, but those are some of the types of businesses that we've seen that are home-based that don't generally are not eligible. The other thing is that there's a requirement that the business had to have been closed or severely limited, and the way we determine that is we're looking to see, one of the questions or one of the requirements further down that as it relates to revenues is that we're going to confirm whether or not you can demonstrate that you have a 20% loss in revenue, and we consider that being severely limited. And so whether you've been closed or not, if you can show that you've had a 20% loss, then that will make you eligible. So just wanted to offer that clarification as it relates to location. The age of your business must be that you've been in operation since January 1st, 2019. So that's something that we're looking at. And as far as revenues, we're looking for $2 million or less. And as I stated, that 20% revenue loss that has to be demonstrated, which once again is how we determine that your operations have been severely limited. As far as ownership, this one has been interesting because we have had businesses that it may be the same business owner, but they have different businesses throughout the city. Only one will be eligible, and so there won't be more than one application that is accepted by a business owner, and we just don't feel that's fair. So we don't want one business owner to have a greater chance of winning the lottery because they own 4 or 5 businesses throughout the city. So we want to make it fair and just make sure that it's one business owner for one business. And as far as franchises are concerned, they are eligible, but it's only for 2 or fewer businesses if they have a franchise. But once again, the location has to be in Fairfield, and they cannot have received any corporate support. Now, this particular requirement that relates to receiving some type of other funding or support only relates to franchises and the corporate structure. As far as if you've received SBA funding, let's say for a PPP or the economic disaster loan or anything of that nature, if you've received other funding support from another agency or municipality or whatever the case may be, if you have another funding source, you're still eligible to apply for this. So a lot of the other grants don't allow you to apply, or you're not eligible if you received funding from another source. But we wanted to make sure that we were taking care of our businesses in Fairfield, and so that's not a requirement of this grant. And a few of the other requirements is that your business needs to be in good standing. So as a part of the background that check that we'll do is if you make it and you're selected as a part of the lottery and you move on, SBDC will then reach out to you and request documentation, which will be discussed further on. And through that documentation, we'll then really be able to confirm your eligibility and whether or not you'll be recommended to enter into a grant agreement with the city. Now, the funding limits, as I mentioned, are $5,000, $7,500, and $10,000. And once again, that's based on the number of full-time employees that you're able to demonstrate. So for 5 employees or fewer, you're eligible for $5,000. For 6 to 10 employees, you're eligible for $7,500. And for those businesses that are between 11 to 20 employees, you're eligible for $10,000. Now, one of the other great things about this grant is the eligible expenditures. There's been a lot of limitations on some of the underfunding sources, but this one we wanted to make sure that you were eligible to pay for lease payments. That's definitely been one of the challenges for a lot of the businesses, and there's been some landlords that have been accommodating, but unfortunately there's been some others that have not. And so we wanted to make sure that we offered an opportunity for our businesses to be able to get caught up on their lease payments and make their lease payments and to avoid any threats of eviction. At the end of the day, we want you to be successful and we want you to remain open and we want you to stay in Fairfield. So that was an important expenditure that we wanted to include that was eligible, and also the standard payroll and utilities and the business supplies and the other ones that are listed, especially those that the costs that have been incurred to be able to transition to online services. So there's some businesses and some uses that have been able to do that quite successfully, in fact. And so that's something that those are some of the costs that we want to be able to cover. A question that's come up throughout this process is marketing costs, whether marketing costs are eligible expenditures, and they are. We certainly recognize that a business is going to have to market themselves more, whether that's additional digital marketing or paying Yelp or whatever the case is, or even banners. That's one of the more popular ones is banners that have been utilized. So those are that marketing component. Even sometimes the mailers, a question has come up about stamps and mailing, and if you're able to demonstrate once again that that's as a result of the pandemic, then we're accommodating to that. And once again, there is that level of flexibility, and there's something that's up for interpretation, although we'll definitely hold true to these requirements. As far as being able to demonstrate it, we're a little more open and flexible and understanding for unique situations like that. So that covers the eligibility requirements. And as I said at the onset of this, all this information can be found at fairfield.ca.gov/cares. Now, another thing I'd like to discuss is the timeline. This is really important. There's some critical dates, and just so that you're aware of the process and and how we're approaching this particular program as we're moving fast. As I mentioned, the applications are currently being accepted, with the deadline to apply being August 28th, which is a Friday. Right after that, on Monday, August 31st, SBDC will be providing a list to the city of those application responses, those applications that meet the eligibility requirements. And so with that list, it will then be randomized by the city, and that is when we're going to be holding the lottery, is on September 1st, which is a Tuesday. So you can see the very next day, the city's moving forward on conducting that lottery. And then based on the results of the lottery, and once again, it's going to be dependent on the funding amounts that are on the list that will make up the number of grants. And so we're just going to work our way through that list all the way up until there's $400,000 worth of funding that's been requested. And so that's how the lottery is going to work, and those are the number of grants that'll be awarded. So once we pass that information on as far as who's been selected as a part of the lottery, SBDC will then be notifying the businesses on September 1st. And at that time, that's when documentation will be requested. So the information that you've provided on your application will then need to be confirmed with the documentation request from SBDC, and that'll include the 2019 tax return, and also a revenue and expense summary of March to June. And that's really going to offer us the information that we need in order to substantiate and calculate that there has been that loss in revenue, that 20% loss in revenue that we need to document to make sure that we're meeting the eligibility requirements. Now, the next important date, and I put this in red, and it's certainly just as important as the deadline to apply, is that SBDC will be imposing a deadline to receive this documentation by 5 p.m. on Friday, September 4th. So if you are selected as a part of the lottery and SBDC makes the request that you provide the documentation, if it is not received by 5 p.m. on Friday, September 4th, then we will remove you from the list and we will just move down to the next person that's eligible. So it is very important and it is critical that you submit that documentation to SBDC by 5 p.m. on Friday, September 4th. Once that information is received, SBDC is going to do an amazing job at reviewing all that information. As you can imagine, anywhere from 40 to 80 grants and applicants that their backgrounds are going to have to be checked and the documentation is going to have to be confirmed. By September 8th, SBDC will then be able to deliver the recommendations to the city as to who to proceed with in entering into a grant agreement. So we're hoping that by a little after September 8th, we will then be reaching out. The city will then be reaching out to those applicants that have made it through the process and offer them an opportunity to enter into a grant agreement. And so far from the information that I know, that grant agreement, one of the requirements is going to be that you're in operation for at least 6 months after you receive the grant. And we're going to be utilizing DocuSign to be able to just expedite the process. So you'll be able to sign those documents electronically. So that's the timeline that we're proposing, and we're really hopeful that we'll be able to get checks issued by the middle to third week in September. So with that, I'll pass it back on to Tim and Brianna to just walk through the application process.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Great job going over everything. I know we have a number of questions that have come in chat that we'll get to here in just a couple minutes. One kind of final footnote that Jorge alluded to was the kind of tight time frame in that last, in getting that information to us by the 4th or by Friday of that week. We know that only provides you, 3 days to pull that together, but you can help yourself out by being proactive on that and, make sure and gather those 2019, tax returns and your revenue information, ahead of time. We really the city and the work that we've done at the SBDC, we've tried to do everything we can to not require more information than we had to have. And we've really, the reason for the tight timeline is that we understand the urgency of getting this money in your hands as soon as possible. And that's what's driving that. So, just wanted to kind of provide some extra flavor on that one. And so with that, Brianna, can you go ahead and pull up the application? We'll just kind of walk through a few of the questions, and while she's doing that, I would just say that the application itself really mirrors what the requirements are that Jorge just walked through. That it's really there to help us understand whether each business meets the requirement or not. So let's see. Is that coming up, Brianna, or is that? We're working on it.
We're working on it. I'm sorry, guys. I've actually have not.
So, while we're working on it, and unfortunately I don't have it on my computer. I'm at home because I thought I might have to evacuate, but we'll just walk through it. Hopefully, many of you probably have already completed it.
I apologize, guys. See, I've never shared a screen. I'm on my laptop because we are working remote today, and I have not shared a screen on this laptop before, and it's telling me I need to quit Zoom in order to to share. So technology. So if you guys don't mind, if I could just pull it up on my end, and I'll just go through the questions real quick, and I'll also attach. How about this? I'll attach a link to the application in the comments, and then I'll go through the questions too. Let me do that.
Great.
And I am very sorry, guys, about that.
Hey, I think we've all probably had our technology moments. So I'm just going to start going through that. So really the first like 5-6 points.
Sorry, in the comments, guys, is the link to the application. So you're welcome you can open that right now. And I actually have it open. Do you want me to just go through the questions, Tim?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the first few questions are pretty basic. Just your name of your business, and your business address. From there, we're looking for your phone number and your email. Please make sure you include an email that you do check regularly, as once we do the lottery, we will be getting back to you guys very quickly, and we'll be reaching out to you by email. The next question has to do with how many full-time employees are on your staff. As Jorge was mentioning earlier, if you have part-time employees, just the equivalent of full-time employees would be great. And then another big question is, was your business operating in Fairfield on or before January 1st, 2019? Next question, does your business operate from an office or storefront? Home-based businesses are not eligible for grant funds at this time. These two questions are very, very important, and it's very important that you mark the correct bubble, because when we do our initial screening, that's, those are things we'll be looking for. Is your business independently owned and operated? And then if you own a franchise business, do you meet the following requirements? And these are the ones that Jorge went over earlier. You own 2 or fewer businesses. Your only locations are within Fairfield, and you are not receiving corporate support. And again, I just want to stress the importance of making sure that you fill in the correct bubble here. Is your business in good standing? And then what was your 2019 annual revenue? For this process, we just need a number. If you are selected as part of the lottery, then we will need documentation. But for this initial application, we just need a number. And did you lose at least 20% in revenue because of COVID-19? And then we have 2 questions where you could give longer answers. Did your business have to close, or were operations severely impacted by COVID? And please explain. And how would your business utilize grant funding? And as Jorge discussed, grant funds can be used to pay for lease payments, payroll, utilities, business supplies such as PPE, equipment purchases that expand operation, and investments in software technology that allows for a shift to online operation, as I know many of you are doing. And then other expenses may be eligible as reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So that is the application. Again, you're able to click on the link and you could see it and get an easy access to fill it out. My apologies again for my technical problems. All right.
It's all good.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Brianna. One of the items that's easy to miss here in the question about is your business is in good standing is one of the questions is, do you have a current business license with the city of Fairfield? Make sure that if it's not in good standing, that you make sure it is in good standing before you apply, because that is a requirement. So I just could sort of reiterate that point. Cool. So how did you guys do this yesterday, Brianna? Do you open it up for questions now, or do you want to go through the chat?
I have a couple of questions that people submitted through registration. And what we did yesterday is we went through those questions first. And then we also went through the chat. But then if you have a question and you'd like to speak, you're welcome to use your icon under participants and raise your hand. And then we'll unmute you and you're welcome to ask questions that way as well. But I'll go through the questions we received through registration first, and then we'll hit chat and go from there. So one big question was, can a business apply if they've already received SBA PPP funds? Jorge touched on that already. Yes, you can still apply if you've received those fundings. Do we need to break down exactly how we are spending the grant amount, or can we give a general description? Will receipts be required? Jorge, just to confirm, really just a general description, correct?
That's right. Yes. This grant was not designed to be reimbursement based, and that was just to be able to get the funding to those that qualified as soon as possible. So there's not a requirement for receipts to be submitted for reimbursement. And then hopefully that answers the question.
Okay. And then we already went over how and when we'll be informed of approvals. Someone said, I am a self-employed hairstylist with no employees. I meet all other criteria. Do I qualify for this grant? And the answer is yes, correct, as long as they are located in an office or storefront.
That's correct. Yes, and that seems to be a common question. Especially for those that travel or contract with different entities. The main criteria is that you have an office or a storefront and that you are not a home-based business. And once again, this is going to be verified through your business license, because that's how the business licenses are issued. And so I encourage everyone to take a look at their business licenses prior to applying and seeing how that's categorized on your business license, because that will be how we confirm whether your eligibility.
And Mia Douglas submitted a question in chat that I did not have an answer to. I'm going to pass to you, Jorge. She said, my license is at my home. I am contracted at schools and rent a space to hold lessons. Does this make me a home-based mobile owner, even though she rents a space?
Yes, unfortunately it does. Once again, the method in which eligibility is being determined for this particular requirement is your official business license and the address that is utilized to show the location of the business.
I'm going through the chat right now. Is showing our California sales tax record sufficient for proof of loss?
I'm going to have to defer to Tim, to you on that. I do see that there's a couple of questions as far as taxes and some of the documentation that they're able to obtain or not. So I'll pass that to Tim.
Yeah. So really what we're looking for is just not so much just the taxes. You can provide that information to us. That's helpful. It gives us additional insight. But the primary thing we're looking for is your revenue and your expenses for that March, April, May, or excuse me, April, May, June timeframe. That, and however you can communicate that, whether that's a cash flow report from QuickBooks or your accountant, or an Excel spreadsheet, however you want to communicate that. But that's really what we're focusing on. And again, if you want to provide that tax information, that's great. Any additional information we'll accept. But that's the core requirement.
And I just want to add to that. Once again, we recognize that there may be circumstances for some businesses in which they won't be able to submit the specific documentation that we're requesting, such as some of the questions that are being posed right now. And we're willing to come up with approaches on how that can be determined and confirmed. So as long as the city and SBDC are comfortable in the manner in which we're able to confirm that you do meet the requirements, that is a consideration, and we are flexible in kind of determining that on a case-by-case basis. With that being said, though, it will be a matter of it needing to meet those requirements, and so how we confirm that, we're open to, although we have a preference on how to being able to substantiate that. And also the other thing is, take into consideration that you'll only be providing documentation if you're selected as a part of the lottery. So to apply, we're not asking for that information up front, which makes it more encouraging to apply, and I encourage you to apply. It'll only be if you're selected as a part of the lottery that documentation will then be requested.
All right, and I have one more question, Jorge, that was submitted through private chat to me. Someone wants us to elaborate a little bit more on corporate support. They said they have a few small investors from 2018 that owns approximately 6% of the business, but that's it. No investment money since 2018.
Yeah. So basically, if you go ahead, Tim.
I mean, I would assume it's whoever has majority ownership that you're looking to, right? And in that case, this individual does have majority ownership. But feel free to elaborate if there's other views on that, Jorge.
Yeah, I think if for example, if you're a franchisee and the franchise company ends up saying, we're offering this to our franchisees or this level of support, then that's what I think that's what we're primarily looking towards. And so a lot of the businesses that are located within our city are franchises. And so that's what we'll confirm. So if you are a franchise, we will then turn to the corporate company to see if you've been offered financial support as a part of any program that they may have established.
Okay, I believe we've addressed the questions through chat. Oh, what format would the revenue expense documentation be? Will they need to be submitted in Excel, or do you want bank statements?
Either one, honestly. Excel is fine, just to show. Again, we're not looking for the breakdown of what all your expenses were. We're just looking for the total expenses and revenue for those 3 months. So whatever is easiest for you to communicate, that we'll take.
And then I think we've also
Brianna, if I can just jump on that really quickly. So another resource that the city will be utilizing is that we have the capability of seeing what your gross receipts are and also what your sales are. And so that'll also be a determining factor. So we have those software capabilities. And so as you're submitting these applications, and once again, that's if you're selected as a part of the lottery and you move forward, the same program that we're utilizing for our business licenses also allows the capability to confirm what your gross receipts and sales are.
I believe Patricia has a question. I'm going to, go ahead. sorry. Go ahead, Patricia.
Good morning, everyone. We have a business out on Campus Lane, and we work in conjunction with the state of California, barbering and cosmetology licensing. We were closed down March 16th, and we didn't get to reopen until June 22nd. And then again, today we're closed because of the fires, and we're closed yesterday. Would this time period be acknowledged? Tim, you said it was just for April through June.
Correct.
So
Yes.
I know we wouldn't be disqualified because,
Right.
but there would be nothing, they wouldn't count that as.
That's correct. No, you just communicate to us that during that time period, if you had no revenue, you obviously probably had some expenses, I'm guessing. But
Yeah, $37,000 in rent that we walked back into.
Oh my, yeah. So you just report, whatever your revenue and expenses were during that period, even though we know the revenue will probably be very low.
0.
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry for the rough patch you've gone through.
It's been a
That's
rough
no
go,
fun.
but we've gotten reopened, and thank God we got to bring our
Yeah.
employees back, but cutting hours, but they're all back.
Good for you
so.
guys. Awesome. That's great. Now if these fires will go away, be in business.
Yeah, amen. I'm waiting for the locusts.
Right, exactly. We shouldn't say things like that, right?
I know.
The murder hornets, they're coming. Another question submitted through chat. Are we looking at 20% losses year over year or only since March?
Well, since March, because one of the requirements of the program is that we need to you need to show a 20% reduction in revenue. So it's not really year over year. It's just we'll look at the 2019 totals from your tax returns, and then we'll just look at the revenue and expenses from that April, May, June time period.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Honey,
Yes, I do have a question. Yes, I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is Francisco Geronimo. I am the owner operator of Jerry's Downtown Barber at 2560 North Texas. My question is, I just assumed the business January, and I don't have any revenue for 2019. So am I be eligible for this grant or not?
That's a tough one.
All right, I'm trying to remember what is the requirement that they had to be in business, and it is January 1st, right?
Yes,
January.
January 1st, yes.
Yes, so January 1st, 2019 is that's one requirement that you must have been in operation since then. But as far, once again, the documentation is only requested if you make it, if you're selected as a part of the lottery. So as far as applying, I encourage you to apply. Now, if you're selected as a part of the lottery, then we'll discuss with you the documentation that would be sufficient enough to be able to confirm the requirements that you've had a loss in revenue in that particular business. And just an idea, and then this may not necessarily be the way we do it, but once again, as I said, we're capable of checking sales data and gross receipt data for the previous from the previous year. So that may be something we look at, but just based on what that information tells us will really be how we'll be able to determine that.
So in regards to a revenue in 2020 from January to March, where do you base those revenue at? How can I be able to provide you a documentation on those revenue?
Tim, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, we'll work with you on that. I guess we would just focus on what the entire revenue and expenses has been since you started the shop. But I want to go back and ask you a follow-up question, Francisco. Did you acquire this business or did you just start it on your own?
I just started it because the previous owner
You just-
went to overseas, and he doesn't have anybody to take over this business. So I assumed this since January.
So it was an
We-
existing business that you assumed?
Yeah, it's under my name now.
Okay.
He's no longer part of it.
Okay, and the previous owner, can you possibly get the 2019 tax return from him?
I don't know. I am not sure about that.
Okay, well, we'll take it.
Because he is in other country, so
Mhm.
I don't know if he can be able to provide me all the necessary documentation that I need. So that's what's it.
Okay, well, we're making a note of your name, Francisco. As Jorge mentioned, I would proceed with applying, and we'll circle back with you on that, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Francisco, when you do the application and the question says, was your business open on or before January 1st, 2019, say yes, because it is an existing business. And then if you are selected in the lottery process, we'll go from there with the documentation.
All right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Any other questions? You're welcome to raise your hand or just speak up. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask have any questions. There's a question in chat. I'm not sure. It says business type number 065 is a home business, correct? Jorge?
You know what? I'm unsure of that specific number, and so that's something that we can follow up with. So if we can get Mia's contact information, I can follow up on that. And there's a couple different things. So for example, when you tell me that number, like I instantly think of NIC code numbers, which specify each specific use. And I'm not sure if that's what we're referring to or if we're referring to that number as something as a part of our internal process. So I'll have to confirm that.
All right. I see Sergio has a question.
Good morning. Are we as home-based businesses, we're gonna have any opportunities like grants for us?
No, unfortunately not. And I think I saw this question in the chat room, but at this time there is not a program that is being considered for development for home-based businesses.
Okay. What if we get an address? I'm trying to get an office here in Fairfield, but still working on it. Would it be that for eligibility?
Unfortunately not, because once again, one of the documents that we'll be relying on is the business license.
Yeah,
so based on.
I have a business license that, like I said, I'm trying to get a this office.
Right, but on the business license, that's where you initially identify the location of your business, and that's what we'll be relying on as a part of this grant application process.
Okay. Thank you.
So I see we have a question from Lisa Alexander in the chat. Lisa, you're asking if you have your 2019 transactions done, or if you don't have them done with your accountant, will that suffice? Again, as long as you can provide like an Excel spreadsheet showing what those revenue and expenses were during that time period, that will suffice. Any other questions?
Oh, excuse me. Can you give me the application website again, please? Where you can apply for Or,
Right. So you want to go to fairfield.ca.gov/cares, and we'll
what?
put that in the chat. It's
It just went in the chat twice.
just went in the chat twice. Okay. So Francisco, are you able to access the chat?
Which
Box?
one? Which one is that?
If you click on toward the bottom, it says chat. If you click there,
Oh, chat.
yeah, the
Okay.
website to go to is in there. It's the fairfield.ca.gov/cares, and that will take you to the application.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Anything else? Well, gosh, I guess we've provided the bulk of what we needed to today. And just remember the 28th will be here before we know it. I want to wish you all good luck after you submit these applications in the lottery, and many of you will likely be selected out of that. And we look forward to continuing the process to work with you and hopefully get some dollars courtesy of the city of Fairfield in your hands to help you with your business. So I like that. Somebody says, pick me. Yeah, I like that enthusiasm. That's awesome. So beyond that, Jorge, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts.
I just want to reiterate, once again, that the deadline is the 28th. Don't be so concerned about the documentation that's going to be requested, because at the onset of applying, it's not necessary to provide that information. You'll only have to provide that information if you are selected as a part of the lottery process. And then even after that, we're open to having a discussion as to, how we feel comfortable that we're able to make a determination that you've met those eligibility requirements. And we'll look at, circumstances that fall outside of, the normal documentation that we're requesting. I also just want to thank Brianna and Tim and SBDC and the Workforce Development Board, because they have been amazing in this process. There is no way that the city would have been able to roll out this program in the timeframe that we are without their help. And I encourage everyone to visit SBDC to, if you haven't yet, for any technical assistance that you may need now and in the future, because they'll be able to assign you an advisor, and they have great webinars, and they've done a lot of work in downtown for us. They've been a partner with us to be able to develop a restaurant consultancy program for the restaurants in our downtown. So I encourage you to visit SBDC and also the Workforce Development Board if you need to hire folks, or you're holding a hiring event, reach out to them as well. And once again, all this information can be found at fairfield.ca.gov /cares.
I told Jorge yesterday, and I'll say it again, he should join me on the marketing team for the Solano SBDC. He's fantastic. As he said, all of our services are free. We offer free one-on-one business consulting, and we have a variety of workshops that are currently being offered as webinars every month. What's great about the webinars is that's making it even more accessible to everyone. You just watch it on your screen. You can learn a whole lot. We also partner with NorCal SBDC, and we provide access to their webinars too. All of our services are free. Any business with less than 500 employees qualifies for our free services. And here in Solano County, that is over 99% of our business community. So definitely feel free to reach out to us, solonosbdc.org.
Thank you, Brianna and Jorge. And just so one more time, our website, if you want to go sign up to be a client, is solonosbdc.org. So we hit that. And Jorge, I want to thank you for being such a great partner on this and many other things. Thank you again for the support from the city of Fairfield. I have to tell you, being part of other programs, we've tried to make this, and thankfully from the city of Fairfield's perspective, we've made this as light as we possibly could in terms of the documentation requirements and what we needed. So shout out to them for that too. They just want to get the money in your hands. So thanks everyone for joining us, and good luck, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Everyone, thank you.
Bye-bye.